y'all. Okay, so DCL has many responsibilities outlined in the Constitution that are technical and logistical, but ultimately it is like what you make it. So what are some ideas or ways you envision making the position your own, / what can set you apart from your predecessors?
What I wrote in my platform, something I want to implement this year is more like interactive. So whether that's like collaborating with like code activities and sending out more feedback forms on what membership wants to see. Because I feel like if, as like DCL, if you are able to consider what membership wants, they're more likely to come out and like come to the events and be more participative. And one of the things I wrote in my platform was like an interactive board. So like at Gen meetings, we can have like post-it notes that membership wants to post on and what they want to see in the future semester. So yeah.
Yeah, I also agree with Gracie. I want to utilize the newsletter, and also with the other orgs that I'm a part of, I want to be able to bring that here because the Filipino community is not just here on this campus, but it's very vast, very big. And I hear a lot of opportunities, and I don't think it's fair for me to just hear that alone, and I want to share that with everyone.
No, I definitely agree. I do want to like utilize the DCL position to like outreach to other orgs, but also like maybe smaller businesses and all that. So like I know fundraising was outlined in some of the job area thing of the position. So I'd like to reach out to smaller businesses and foster just like a relationship with them. And concerning like general membership, I'd like to start sending out like also wellness emails, just checking in with everyone as well, to see how everyone's doing and get just a more sense of community in that way.
I got a lot of questions. Sorry. So this role is really demanding in terms of meeting deadlines, especially with X amount of board members who require assistance with planning, booking rooms, etc. How do you see yourself communicating and completing tasks effectively and timely, but also setting boundaries for yourself as a student, general member, or person in general?
I think this year has really given me a very like good stepping stone to really create my boundaries and really put them in place and be like, I'm going to take this time for myself. But I know this is a very demanding role, but I like it. I like it here. Like, so I want to give back to my community. That's what I want to do, and I really feel like I can. I'm already here, and I'm already with everyone all the time, so it's like, might as well.
For me, I think concerning like time management and stuff, it's about creating a list because last semester there were some like, oh, whoa, that's a lot. But as I started kind of like creating lists for myself and like giving myself deadlines to complete stuff, it got easier, more manageable. And I could also not utilize, but like ask the other e-board members for help, or just be transparent, like everyone's saying, be transparent with them and be honest. Like, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can you help me out? Or I can help you out with this. All that stuff, and lost my train of thought, but yeah.
You talked about how like setting boundaries for yourself and how it's like a very heavy load as DCL, and I feel like there's like a time and place if like per se an e-board member is constantly asking you for help and saying like, hey, you can ask like your fellow Kasamas or like your fellow e-board members like, hey, so and so is doing this, do you think you can help me on that? I think it's about setting boundaries and like knowing what you're capable of doing in order to perform the job well.
So going off of that, also like in the terms of like communication, just giving an example of when, or like a time where you had to communicate with someone who was being difficult, unreachable, or any other barriers, and how you overcame that, or what you would have done differently in that situation.
I think going back to like high school group projects, there were a lot of times where there was like that one member that just wasn't doing anything. And even if like you kind of tried to reach out, they wouldn't respond back. So if that were to happen, I think one of the things I would try to do first is just face-to-face, in-person conversation with them, and just kind of like ask like, hey, first like, are you okay? What's the deal? Is there something I could do to maybe make this not easier, but like help you along with this, or give you ideas so you can do the work? But if that doesn't work, then second on this. Oh, I forgot. Come back. Just come back to me.
Before coming here in high school, I was actually an editor in like my journalism, so like newspaper and like yearbook. And I was constantly faced with people like ignoring my messages, like, hey, I can't meet with this interview anymore. And I feel like, considering like your question, one way I overcame that was like, is either constant communication with them, or if when in doubt, I needed to find a new person to interview. And in this case for eBoard, if something were to come up, I would also like communicate with my fellow eBoard members to help me figure out this situation. But at first, I would obviously do what I'm capable of doing before reaching out for help.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm pretty good at spamming people, but also you can't control what the other people ask. I'm not gonna go hunt someone down. We're all adults here. We all have a lot of things on our plate. So whatever is within our capacity first to finish and find them and meet them where they're at is what I would do. Okay, I have another question. Okay.
Oh, wait.
Okay, you go.
Okay. I have one more question, so I'm sorry. Okay, last question. Okay. So in my experience, this role involves a lot of behind the scenes work. So like you don't plan your own events, and a lot of it has to do with a lot of the work that you're doing is like not a lot of people acknowledge it, or not a lot of people see it, or even know what you do, honestly. And so in the way that it goes unnoticed and unrecognized, it's like a contributing factor to imposter syndrome. And so like, how do you plan on not only showing up for board in that capacity, but also showing up for yourself in terms of that?
I think for me, like, concerning like imposter syndrome, or at least not having the work acknowledged in that way, it doesn't not bother, but it's not like a crazy part of, like, if that makes sense. Like, I don't mind as much. I think for myself, I think if I can put the best kind of work, like contribute the work to the best of my abilities, and I know that, hey, this is the best work I've contributed, I have done all that I can to the best of my abilities, I think that would help a lot with just not feeling like, hey, I'm not really doing that much, or no one's acknowledging. It's like, I know, like, for myself, that I did everything that I could do to help out everyone else. And to see the way I contributed to, like, activities to the club and stuff come and see it all run smoothly would make me personally feel like this is...
Can you repeat the question one more time, please?
So essentially, the role that, in my experience, has involved a lot of behind the scenes work that often doesn't go noticed or is unrecognized. And so that's like a contributing factor to imposter syndrome. So like, how do you plan on showing up for not only the rest of the board in that capacity, but also showing up for yourself?
I feel a lot of imposter syndrome, like as a woman, in STEM. But I've been told this a lot, but it's about the quality of people and not the quantity. So if the right people recognize, like, not the right people, but the people that matter will recognize you, that matter to you will recognize you and the work that you do. And only at the end of the day, you need to be okay with the work that you put in and be secure in yourself.
I think, yeah, going off of both of them, like, you have to be confident on what you're presenting. I think at the end of the day as DCL, you're like the main, like, you're like in between membership and eBoard, and I think at the end of the day, you're serving membership to the best of your ability. And I think the knowledge that membership like enjoys what you're doing, or like what you're putting up for eBoard, I think that'll like get away from the imposter syndrome that I would feel as DCL.
Okay, so as we were saying, DCL is responsible for more like logistical and behind the scenes work, but other less things, like of course DCL is just as important to fulfilling the organization as is any other position on board. So how do your intentions and like your like the work that you do as DCL, and like your intentions with being on board in general, align with and uphold the four pillars of the Summer Market?
Well, when I was applying for this, I was really looking at that email and be like, do I apply for DCL? And I was like, so my intentions for doing this is kind of just get like a new opportunity and learn for myself. But in a way, like I said in my speech, I want to be able to reciprocate the experience I've experienced within my first year, whether that's helping people create new connections or like helping them learn more about their culture, but also, yeah.
I can go, sure. I definitely agree with what Gracie was saying. And then I think also I also want to create the atmosphere, the vibe of a very open and welcoming feeling to new members, and to just connect like past, future, present members as well. It's my ultimate goal, I guess, in applying for this. Yeah, words.
I'm still learning, so like I'm always gonna be learning. So I think this role is like very flexible in like evolving how we move over time, and like upholding the 4 pillars, like having everyone on e-board and just supporting them and seeing their visions come to life is something that's very fulfilling, because you see all the work that we've all put in and seeing that like having members come in, enjoy themselves, learn about their culture, and have fun with it. It's something that's very rewarding, and that's something that I want to see in this position.
I know. So with DCL, it's very much communications and logistics, but even with that, you still have the flexibility to make it your own. Something that I know that Ruth implemented in her role this year was adding like Alaman, which means information or knowing information in her newsletter. So do you have any kind of new initiatives that you want to implement into this role, whether it be through newsletter or just any sort of logistics that comes into the role?
I don't know if it's like this is a new thing, but to just, I guess, maybe implement a more, like I said before, like wellness check-ins, just checking in with like both general membership and e-board, to make sure everything is like everyone's feeling all right, or if there's any problems, what like maybe I or e-board could do to help, and all that general thing. But yeah, just wellness check-ins in general, maybe within like the newsletter or in the form of like a docs or another email, that kind of thing.
And I was about to say something and nothing came out of my mouth. Sorry. I went. Nothing came out. Sorry. What I was gonna say, and what I'm gonna say now, is I want to promote that newsletter more, because I know there's a lot of work that goes into it, but sometimes it goes unrecognized. And build upon whatever Ruth has started or anyone else previously. But I also want to utilize the Instagram more. Like we do have a pretty, I don't want to say big social media presence, but it's there. Like we have a social media presence and we have a following, and maybe go on the website more. I don't know, because I remember when I was the first year, I was so curious. I was like, it's on the website, nothing. But Maddie has done a lot of hard work, so she's not here. She's done a lot of hard work, so yes, utilize all the tools that have been given.
I guess something I want to bring to the table is I kind of want to steer away than more like newsletters and feedback forms. I know sometimes, like for me at least, I'm always like, what's this newsletter saying? Or like sometimes I don't even check it because of my emails. But I kind of want to implement more physical things that people can interact with, because I feel like more people are more likely to interact with something that they see in front of their eyes or like that they can touch. So like at Gen meetings, I feel like, especially my first year, although it's like a QR code, I feel like sometimes it can be presented like in like a flyer, like that publicity or like someone else on eBoard could help create. Because I feel like as a member right now and as my first year, I kind of feel like something more physical or something I can touch and see, I'm more likely to do it. And I feel like other Kasamas will most likely do that as well.
Last question.
Okay. Sorry. Clearly, I love my position so much. So what would you say is like your greatest strength and your greatest weakness, and how do you see that affecting or playing a role in how you're going to take up this position and throughout the school year?
Even though I said I've learned about boundaries a lot, I'm still learning about keeping my boundaries in place and not budging with them, because that's something how I feel personally, and I feel like my schedule is very, very tight. And I just want to be able to, that's not what I was going to say. I'm sorry. Being confident in the work that I put out and know that it's enough, because I always want to push myself to the point where it's not feasible and for my lifestyle and like it's just exhaustion, burnout fast, and that's something that I want to change.
Yeah, I'd say that definitely my biggest weakness is constantly saying yes. Like, if someone were to come up to me like, hey, I need this and that, I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll definitely help you. But I feel like through this upcoming year, I definitely want to set my boundaries and be like, hey, sorry, and like I can't do this because of so this and that. And I feel like one of my biggest strengths is organizational skills, because as like I said, my role as editor for my journalism in high school, I was able to like organize like my thoughts, what I wanted to get done this week or this upcoming month.
I think for me, one of my strengths is probably like communicating and reaching out to people and just like asking questions or getting to know like what they need or all that stuff. Just general like people communication. And this might sound like a contradiction, but I think one of my weaknesses is like not communication, but like words. Like, does that make sense? Like, what's happening now? Like, sometimes I have like an idea and it doesn't really form the right way. Like, I can't really get it out, but it's there, and it just kind of takes a little bit more to get to the point of like what I mean to do and what I want to do. So